Available with Passport. Become a member of this PBS station. Sign in and start streaming today.
Coming up next on Arizona PBS, Life and World.
Arizona PBS celebrates Arizona history with a moment in time, made possible by Whitfill Nursery. Charles T. Hayden is credited with being the founder of Tempe and Arizona State University. Mill Avenue in Tempe is named after the Hayden Flour Mill, originally built by Hayden in 1874.
Coming soon to Arizona PBS.
Washington Week is an island of civil discourse in a chaotic media environment. On Friday night, we gather the best reporters in the nation and have a conversation that's about informing the American people.
Washington Week.
All new Friday night at 7 on Arizona PBS.
From the Cronkite Studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Tonight, immigrant families prepare for the worst-case scenario in the event of increased deportations.
Also, organizations gathered to get Senator Martha McSally's support for an international climate agreement.
And thousands of athletes join for the biggest obstacle race in the world. But this isn't just about competition.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Kyla Wilcher.
And I'm Owen Evans. Thank you for joining us. President Donald Trump announced on Twitter that Immigration and Customs Enforcement will start deporting millions of undocumented immigrants currently in the United States.
The tweet caught many in the immigrant community by surprise and has people asking how exactly the president's order will be carried out. Cronkite News reporter Bain Froney spoke with local immigration attorneys today to get more details. Bain?
Both attorneys I spoke with say it's an unusual move by a president to make this kind of announcement, especially on social media. However, they caution people who could be affected need to make plans in the event that they are deported.
It places people on alert that shouldn't be on alert.
Phoenix immigration attorney Delia Salvatierra believes that the latest big immigration announcement made by President Trump is another scare tactic geared towards certain immigrants.
That obviously makes this particular White House probably happy, and his director on immigration issues, Steve Miller, particularly happy because they want to infuse fear in the immigrant community.
Salvatierra is reacting to President Trump's tweet where he announced that Immigration and Customs Enforcement will begin arresting and removing millions of undocumented immigrants in the U.S. According to Salvatierra, the tweet is careless and dangerous.
Because in actuality, it places Department of Homeland Security officials at risk, and it heightens the danger in which they have to go out to detain individuals.
Nevertheless, the tweet has sent shockwaves across immigrant communities and advocates. Ayensa Mian also represents undocumented immigrants and explains who the president's tweet specifically targets.
Most of these people are folks that have gone through an asylum process or a withholding of removal process, and they've lost that process and they never exited the country.
If the president's tweet proves to be true, Mian says those who could be arrested need to make preparations for that possibility now.
Whether they have kids or not, perhaps contact a family member or someone they trust that can make decisions for them, whether it is to retain legal counsel, to pay bills, sell assets, have access to their bank accounts.
Mian echoed similar directives also put out by the American Civil Liberties Union, which specify undocumented immigrants' rights. These include the right to remain silent, that a warrant is needed to enter and search a property, and the right to consult with an attorney. In the broadcast center, Bain Froney, Cronkite News.
While the president's tweet on the immigration crackdown may have come as a surprise to some, reaction in Washington was fairly predictable, as Julian Paras reports from our Washington bureau.
House Republicans had gathered at the Capitol to demand a vote on border security funding, but Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs applauded the president's ICE announcement, saying there needs to be enforcement in the interior too.
The reality is ICE is prepared to do that. These are people that already have a removal order, and so I think that's appropriate.
But that Biggs sees as appropriate, fellow Arizona Congressman Raul Grijalva sees as fear-mongering by the president. In a tweet, the Tucson Democrat said the president's plan would rip families apart, and he called instead for real solutions that uphold our values and hashtag keep families together. Phoenix Democratic Congressman Ruben Gallego said an ICE crackdown would flood courts with parents and workers while ignoring criminals. But Biggs and other Republicans today said the real threat to families comes from the human trafficking of children by smugglers.
They're selling these children, they're recycling these children, and if we enforced our laws, then they're not going to try and cross the border. Those kids are going to be safer.
As he left the White House to head to his re-election announcement in Florida tonight, the president rejected suggestions that his tweet caught ICE by surprise, telling reporters that agents are ready to start next week. In Washington, Julian Paras, Cronkite News.
Today, President Trump said that Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan has decided not to continue the confirmation process. In a tweet, the president thanked Shanahan for his service and said he will be naming Secretary of the Army Mark Esper as the Acting Secretary of Defense. As media reports surfaced of alleged domestic violence incidents within his family, Shanahan released a statement saying he didn't want to open past wounds as part of his confirmation process, according to the Washington Post. Shanahan was appointed last January as Acting Secretary of Defense after Jim Mattis resigned.
A former employee of the Arizona Department of Public Safety Crime Lab has been indicted for allegedly stealing rifle magazines, ammunition, and other items. Todd Whittard was arrested in April and indicted last month on charges of theft and fraudulent schemes and artifices. Whittard was assigned to oversee that latent Princeton firearms unit within the DPS crime lab. He is accused of smuggling items from a non-evidence storage room in his pockets or a canvas bag. DPS officials say an audit last fall revealed weapons and accessories were missing from the crime lab.
The recent $10 million lawsuit against the Phoenix Police Department has sparked a debate on police misconduct. In response, Mayor Kate Gallego organized a community meeting that will take place tonight at 6 p.m. at the Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church. Gallego has invited Phoenix police officer Jerry Williams and the couple that filed that lawsuit. The couple alleged Phoenix PD held them at gunpoint after their 4-year-old daughter allegedly took a doll from a dollar store. Tonight's meeting is an opportunity for community members to voice their concerns after the May 27th incident. The situation was captured on video, and Gallego said she was sick about what she saw, and they owe it to the residents to give them an open forum. Several environmental organizations gathered today outside Arizona Senator Martha McSally's Phoenix office to demand action on climate change.
Cronkite News reporter Amanda Slee was there. Amanda, what was the message these groups delivered?
Groups like the Sierra Club in Chispa, Arizona went to Senator McSally's to sign on to legislation that would require the president to develop a plan to reduce carbon emissions.
We're sending a message to Senator McSally that we would like her to act on climate.
Climate action groups in Arizona delivered a thank you card to Senator Kirsten Sinema for co-sponsoring what's called the International Climate Accountability Act. Then they marched into McSally's office and handed over a card demanding the senator join the effort.
Well, we want to see them be more active. It's been 10 years since we've had any climate change legislation.
The International Climate Accountability Act was introduced in the Senate earlier this month. It would require the U.S. to honor its commitment to the Paris Climate Agreement, a global effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The Trump administration pulled out of that agreement 2 years ago.
We think that it's a moral issue to act on climate change, not just an environmental or economic issue, but a moral and spiritual issue.
The Senate legislation comes on the heels of a similar bill that passed the U.S. House in May.
Other countries have a big responsibility to reduce emissions and to really help lead the way on this. And right now, not only are we not leading the way, but we're getting in the way.
Sandy Barr with the Sierra Club says the goal is to get the full Senate on board and the bill to the president's desk.
We reached out to Senator McSally's office for comment, but we haven't heard back. In the newsroom, Amanda Slee, Cronkite News.
Coming up, we'll tell you about a local company that is putting prisoners to work.
Both while they are in prison and when they get out. The company even provides housing for workers and says the program, which has helped dozens of former inmates, is a win-win.
And faulty cell door locks have caused the Arizona Department of Corrections to ask for funds to repair the facilities.
Noticias is the Spanish-speaking division of Cronkite News, covering topics such as economics, education, sustainability, immigration, and border relations. Cronkite Noticias strives to serve the Spanish-speaking community in Arizona. Under the guidance of prominent Spanish-speaking professionals, students at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism develop content for our broadcast partner, Univision, as well as on Facebook and Twitter. Explore Cronkite Noticias at cronkitenoticias.azpbs.org.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
Arizona will get $100,000 to help ex-prisoners find work.
The Department of Labor only gave 24 states grant money. The goal is to keep ex-offenders from returning to prison by helping them secure employment.
One program that's been helping inmates transition into the workforce is through Hickman's Family Farm. For decades, the farm has offered prison inmates the opportunity to work while incarcerated. The company recently expanded that program by giving inmates a place to live and work once they're released. We learn more in a piece produced by Nick Serpa, Skyliana Dosier, Heather Airsey, and Justin Stoneking.
I would say about 90% of the people that are here come from a similar background, and they all share one thing in common, and that is that they were in prison at one point.
Big old fat snake, aren't you?
Get in there. Whoa! Fell off this side.
Like, people that are coming out of prison, a lot of times they feel like the world is watching me because I still have this stigma like over my head, or I still feel like I'm an outsider.
I love you, baby. I love you too.
You see a lot of guys that come out and right out the bat they're homeless, and they're trying to find a place of stability, and then that doesn't even include finding employment. Hickman's Family Farms is probably the largest egg producer on the West Coast, producing about 10 million eggs a day. We have the group of inmates that are currently working at Hickman's during their incarceration. When those inmates get released, we try to do whatever we can to retain that employment. And a lot of those inmates that come out end up here in our transitional living community.
Get your first key assigned to you, huh? Yeah, first one in years. I still have your old keys at home. Let's just go see.
Oh, it's cute, Mom.
It is cute.
The year and a half before I got arrested, I kind of took a turn for the worst. I've always been responsible and handled my life very well. I took care of my responsibilities and my kids.
The person I was before was very angry, very mean, just selfish and self-centered.
Doctors prescribe prescription painkillers for just about anything, and I was really in a depressed state and got addicted, and I caused a lot of damage.
Going to prison that time definitely opened my eyes to needing to fix the mental health problems before everything else.
I'm still very nervous and anxious, and I'm shaky, a little overwhelmed, but it's all good feelings. I'm happy. and I just want to start rebuilding.
What is your favorite part of this apartment?
The bed. My favorite part of the apartment is the bed. While I was incarcerated, I worked for Hickman's. I worked a retention job. I ended up leaving with over $10,000.
Leaving prison with money was huge. I even sent child support home when I was in prison, which is something I could not have done without this inmate program.
When I ended up getting employed in prison with Hickman's, my ex-husband had needed help with the bills. And it felt really good to be in prison and to be able to say, I can pay those for you.
The first moment Aaron told me those apartments were ready, I think my things were already packed. Getting out of prison, your family's a little bit standoffish. They want to make sure that you're not going to make the same mistakes that you made going in. And the reason why they were okay with the Hickman housing is because they offer counseling, a work program, it's right there on site.
The best support I have are the people around here. There's so many good people here just striving to get their life back.
If I bring someone in here, I want them to be as successful. Like, I want them to go like to the moon if possible. I can say to myself like, oh wow, like that person was really worth helping.
You know, make good decisions and good things will happen. It's true. Everything has fallen into place. Mine and my husband's relationship. Since I've been out, we actually look for things to fight about and we just can't do it.
What drives me now is I have goals. I have so many goals and my kids are pushing me. I want my family back. That's the most important thing to me. I have 3 little boys that need their mom and they are my drive, they're my motivation, and they're gonna keep pushing me to go. So, oh, and I'm gonna cry.
Hickman's Farms does ask employees to put about 20% of their pay towards housing, up to $400 a month.
While some former inmates are finding success outside of prison, other inmates behind one local prison's walls have discovered faulty locks on their cells. Now, the Arizona Department of Corrections received approval to start the first phase with a budget of almost $46 million to replace these faulty cell door locks. The money would also be used towards fire alarms, suppression systems, and air conditioning. The request comes after inmates at Lewis Prison, just outside of Phoenix, could open their cell doors and attack correction officers and other prisoners. The Yuma Prison reported similar issues at their facility and plans to start working on them in summer of 2020.
Officially announced as a dark sky park,
the Grand Canyon National Park is celebrating. We'll share how they plan to announce this news with the public and what this means for the park's future next.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
With wildfires, a scarcity of water, and other environmental issues facing the Earth today, it's critical to stay up to date with local impacts of a changing climate. That's why we created Elemental, covering sustainability, a multimedia collaboration between public television and radio stations. From climate change to water conservation to renewable energy and much more, Elemental covers the latest in sustainability news. Find our stories on our website, elementalreports.com.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
The Grand Canyon is a great place to view the sky because it's so dark, but it's also a great place because it's kind of mysterious. You're at the edge of this mile-deep chasm. When you look down, there's this canyon that goes down. You look up, and you have dark skies with stars and planets shining brightly. So it's really a magical place to view the sky.
The Grand Canyon officially received certification that it is an international dark sky park.
This means that in efforts to protect the night sky from light pollution, the park will continue to implement more energy-efficient lighting throughout the park. The certification also means that the park will share the importance of good lighting with the public in hopes of combining efforts in conserving light pollution. In celebration of the park's certification and the 29th annual Star Party, the Grand Canyon will hold a ceremony on the South Rim that will take place at the Mather Amphitheatre at 10 a.m. this Saturday.
They plan to discuss how the certification impacts the park's programs for education and how more astronomy-based tourism may provide economic opportunities for the surrounding communities.
It's officially monsoon season, but I'm not sure any rain is in the forecast.
Let's ask Lindsay Amundsen for the latest forecast updates. Lindsay?
We are actually feeling below normal temperatures here in the Phoenix area, and that's correct. As though we are in monsoon season, there's no rain in sight. But here's the current temperatures here in the state of Arizona. In Phoenix, we're sitting at 101 degrees, 72 in the Grand Canyon, 88 in Sedona, and down in Tucson, they're sitting at 98 degrees. But over in Lake Havasu, they're at 102 degrees already. And if you're looking to plan your day tomorrow, and want to get outside, we'll be heating up to 82 degrees by 8 a.m., 95 by noon, and then up to 102 degrees by 4 p.m. So make sure you're staying hydrated. And then into the next week, we'll be riding those low 100-degree temperatures, 103 on Wednesday, 104 on Thursday, and 102 on Friday. The sun will be shining all weekend long. We'll be cooling off to 98 degrees on Saturday, up to 100 degrees on Sunday, 102 on Monday, and then 103 on Tuesday, with our lows overnight being in those mid-70s. Live in the Weather Center, I'm Lindsay Amundsen.
Arizona's 10-year drought may seemingly be over. Experts say this is not necessarily promising news. Although high precipitation and abnormally cool temperatures this past spring helped the state out of its drought, years of severe conditions have experts concerned that this summer, water could again be in short supply.
The traveling obstacle course race just came to Glendale this past weekend.
The Spartan race at State Farm Stadium brought people together of all ages to compete. We'll share how this race was more than a competition.
Stay in the know on the go. At Cronkite News, we work hard to report the facts and keep you updated, whether we're on set or on the scene.
Taking it from the studio to the field. So I'm here in South Phoenix.
In Phoenix, we're just a click away. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
I'm Matt Berry, ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
State Farm Stadium transformed into the world's largest obstacle course on Saturday.
Reporter Lindsay Amundsen checked out the Spartan race, where athletes are put to the ultimate fitness test.
Thousands of contestants filled the stadium to compete in the Spartan race. Among those was CrossFit Incendia, who pushed each other through each obstacle as a team. But this race had another meaning for them. They competed for their teammate, Brad.
He was supposed to be here with us, and it wasn't originally like that, but a few days ago, he had to go to the hospital, so it just kind of pushed us a little more to do good for him.
Standing out in their tie-dye shirts, they didn't stop cheering until their last teammate crossed the finish line. And together, they held up their medals, something they say is a sign of strength for their teammate.
It's really great, like getting together and pushing each other to do our best and see what we can do.
This 3-mile, 23-obstacle race is meant to challenge contestants physically and mentally as they climb ropes, run stairs, and throw spears. But it's also meant for any age, including 71-year-old Sharon Wilcox.
My favorite part, I have to say, is everything, because I accomplished everything.
This race is meant to replicate the strength and endurance of the ancient Greek Spartan warriors. It's raced in more than 40 countries on 6 continents and is based off the idea that everyone is an athlete.
It's basically 3 elements. You have to do grip strength, you have to do running, and you have to do heavy carries. So if you can incorporate all of that, you can do it, but it's for everyone.
And for some, it's about completing it the quickest. But for Wilcox, that's not what matters most.
It's important for me to keep my heart going, to keep it pumping. And I want to be with these people. On my bucket list, I'm going to live to be 100. I'm going to be on the Today Show Smucker's jar.
The next Spartan race will be held on Saturday at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. In the broadcast center, Lindsay Amundsen, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, we will hear about an effort at justice reform for first-time offenders that never made it past the governor's desk. And an effort that protects seniors from financial exploitation did become law.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, Stopping a Killer. The first in our flu series explores why these deadly viruses keep health officials up at night. That's Tuesday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
My supervisor came around, tapped me on the shoulder, and said, "You're wanted in security."
The untold story of a vicious witch hunt.
And they said I can't be gay and work there at the same time.
The Lavender Scare.
All new tonight at 8 on Arizona PBS.
If you're looking for one show that tells you what happened that day in the world of business, it's NBR.
We saw a classic shipwreck.
Nordstrom's opening stores.
Triple-digit gains.
Crude climbs.
We're there to help our